In examining the results of the 2022 midterm elections, we have seen data and statistics from every region and every corner of our country. This coverage has been dutifully avoiding one of the most important regions in every election. It is a region that normally doesn't get to vote directly, but nonetheless always has the last word. The region? Fairyland. Fairyland's veto power lies in its endless portrayals of the battle of good against evil, and its power to light the fires of passion which will carry us through the dark times we face. This is what G.K. Chesterton meant when he said, quote, "Fairy tales do not tell children that dragons exist. Children already know that dragons exist. Fairy tales tell children that dragons can be killed." Another lesson from Fairyland is that evil eventually destroys itself. Let's keep that in mind as we examine what's been happening since Tuesday night. Before we dive into why things happened, let's first start with what happened. For all intents and purposes, the GOP had a good run that night. We had an acceptable showing and will likely have the majorities we needed to derail the Biden agenda. So that's the good news. And in the end, that's what matters for now. The bad news is the wins should have been far greater. This was a layup election. Biden's presidency has been horrible and his America has been suffering. With inflation through the roof and gas prices at all-time highs, Republicans thought this would be easy. We have this in the bag, but of course, we didn't. We thought this was a simple referendum on Biden. We thought that's what the election would be about. But the Democrats had other messaging in mind, and so did Republicans. There was so much division within the Republican Party from where to put money, and I'm referring to disagreements between different people within the party, as well as differences of opinions on candidate choices and so many other things. Many candidates talked about national problems instead of local issues. In other words, it was death by 1,000 cuts for us to turn our red wave into a red trickle. I know the lamestream media is ecstatic that the red tsunami didn't manifest the way it should have. But let's take this as a learning experience. We can't simply give up, take our ball, and go home. We need to really analyze the many factors that went into what happened, while also celebrating the wins we did have. J.D. Vance won his Senate race in Ohio. Ted Budd won his Senate race in North Carolina. Hopefully Herschel pulls off the runoff. So let's talk about Oz's race in Pennsylvania. Let's rewind. That primary between him and other Republicans was a bloodbath of Republican infighting. So we were already off to a bad start there. And Oz honestly was supposed to be this TV guy who could appeal to the center, but sadly, this proved not to be the case. Not to mention, he was brought down by Mastriano running on the ticket for governor, so that race was polling badly for months, and we're fortunate that Oz even came close to Fetterman in that sense. But it's still scary to think that Fetterman won, because he's literally worse than Biden, if that is even possible. Pennsylvania also literally voted a dead person into office, which is, I know, pathetic. But rather than pointing fingers and blaming people about why this occurred, let's look at what we can learn from this. One thing we've learned is the Democrats' ability to unite and vote down ballot is unprecedented, and their control over their base is total. They say to people, Republicans are so evil, it doesn't matter who's running on our side or their side, you vote this way. The end. With early voting, many on their side don't even hear debates between the two candidates. They don't go in person to vote. Instead of us operating in a vortex of how we wish things could be, we need to get better at playing the ground game. This means getting operational, on the ground, getting people to vote for our side down ballot.